Hello race fans, Keith Collentine here. Huge news on the driver market for the 2021 Formula 1 season, as Sebastian Vettel and Ferrari have confirmed today that the two will part ways at the end of the current season. That means the 2020 World Championship will be the sixth and final year for Vettel at Ferrari. So why have the two decided to separate at this time? Who is most likely to replace Vettel at Ferrari? And what's next for the 4-times world champion? Vettel joined Ferrari at the end of 2014. It was a huge development at the time because he had parted ways with Red Bull, the team which had backed his junior career, made him an F1 star and taken him to his first world titles. When Vettel moved to Ferrari, he was the most successful driver competing in Formula 1 at the time, with 39 race wins and 4 world championships, as many as Lewis Hamilton and Fernando Alonso put together at the beginning of 2015. At first, Vettel and Ferrari seemed to gel together brilliantly. Vettel won his second start as a Ferrari driver at Sepang in 2015, but the 2016 season brought frustrations and no race wins that year. Things looked better in 2017 and 2018 when he managed to take the championship fight to Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes, but increasingly mistakes and errors were creeping into Vettel's driving. In 2018 in particular saw a succession of errors, and Ferrari at that time took the decision to replace Vettel's teammate Kimi Raikkonen with an exciting young talent, Charles Leclerc. Then around the middle of 2019, Leclerc began to put Vettel under serious pressure, consistently out-qualifying his much more experienced Ferrari teammate. Leclerc gave Ferrari their first win of the year in Belgium, won again at Monza, and strains became evident between him and Vettel, and of course that culminated with the collision between the pair at the Brazilian Grand Prix. The writing was on the wall for Vettel after December last year when Ferrari announced it had signed a new long-term contract with Leclerc, putting question marks over the future of Vettel, whose deal was known to expire at the end of 2020. Vettel hinted at the underlying dissatisfaction that had crept into his relationship with Ferrari in the statement released today, saying, "In order to get the best possible results in this sport, it's vital for all parties to work in perfect harmony. The team and I have realised there is no longer a common desire to stay together beyond the end of this season." No one could realistically describe the many tense moments we saw between Vettel and Leclerc last year as being an example of a team working in perfect harmony. That leads to the obvious question of where are Ferrari going to look for a replacement for the 4-time world champion? Do they just want someone who's going to play number 2 to Leclerc? Do they want another world champion? After all, Ferrari has had a world champion in its lineup for every season since 2007. Or do they want another driver in the Leclerc mould, a race winner and potential star of the future? This being Ferrari, they potentially have the choice of any driver on the grid, even Lewis Hamilton, though publicly he's insisted he intends to remain loyal to Mercedes. More realistic options could include Daniel Ricciardo and Carlos Sainz Jr., or perhaps they could lure back one of their past drivers, such as Kimi Raikkonen or even Fernando Alonso, may not be out of the question. The much trickier question to answer is what's next for Vettel himself. Again, his statement today gives a few hints at what he might be thinking. "What's been happening in the past few months has led many of us to reflect on what are our real priorities in life," said Vettel. "One needs to use one's imagination and to adopt a new approach to a situation that has changed. I myself will take the time I need to reflect on what really matters when it comes to my future." Reading those words, there's an unmistakable hint that retirement is a serious possibility that Vettel is considering. In all likelihood, he faces a choice between leaving Formula 1 or going to drive for a midfield team. World champions tend not to voluntarily opt for the latter, Kimi Raikkonen being a notable exception. Two things are clear. First, that Sebastian Vettel's dream of emulating his hero Michael Schumacher, taking Ferrari back to the top and winning successive world titles with them, have ended today. And, while he may have chosen not to be a Ferrari driver any longer, many of his rivals will want to be, and someone on the grid is about to win the chance to drive for Formula 1's most famous and historic team. Thanks for watching. For more on the 2020 Formula 1 season and of course the driver market for 2021, make sure you're following @racefans.net on Twitter and on Facebook, and of course hit the subscribe button now to follow Racefans on YouTube as well.